And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end.
Finally, Russia has a direct line to our intelligence services via Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you.
Thank you. When and where do you plan on meeting?
Kill me, this Gulf of America, bro. Kill me. Are we going to name it like American Ocean 1 and American Ocean 2 for the Pacific and the Atlantic next, or?
Thank you. When and where do you plan on meeting with Vladimir Putin? And were there any preconditions set to agree to this meeting?
No, we had a great call, and it lasted for a long time, over an hour this morning. I also had with President Zelensky a very good call after that. And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed. We're very far away from that particular war, but that's a vicious war. Probably 1.5 million soldiers killed in a short period of time. I've never seen anything. I have pictures that are, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe what you have to look at. Young, beautiful soldiers that are just being decimated. And it would be nice to end it immediately. But we had a very good talk with people didn't really know what President Putin's thoughts were, but I think I can say with great confidence he wants to see it ended also. That's good. And we're going to work toward getting it ended, and as fast as possible. It's a horrible situation going over. It's flat land, and the bullet goes off, and the only thing it can hit is a body, a human body, a young human body.
How does he repeats these same things over and over and over and over and over and over.
Body. And they're losing just tremendous numbers of mostly soldiers. The cities and towns have been largely demolished. It's a shame what's happened to that country. It would have never happened if I were president. That I can tell you. Would have never happened.
Motherfucker, you are president right now, and it's still happening. So why do you think it would have never happened? It happened from 2016 to 2020 or 2017 to 2021. Like, you're still president. You were president then. Not, like, you didn't do anything to stop any of this. You're not doing anything right now to stop any of this. Why? Like,
it's to look at that. And October 7th would have never happened either, by the way. Middle East.
October 7th. Well, okay.
But we'll get it. I think we'll get it. We'll get something done. We're going to be meeting. Actually, tomorrow they're meeting in Munich, as you know, and we're going to have some other meetings, and I'll be dealing with President Putin largely on the phone, and we ultimately expect to meet. In fact, we expect that he'll come here. And
are there any policies or agendas of Trump that you actually are in favor of? Probably not anything. The reason is that because even if he stumbles onto things that I think are probably fine, right now his mode of operation is wholly illegal. Like, just ruling through executive order is not like a great way to rule. And then two, if he stumbles on anything that I think is good, like, I don't know if his motivations for them are good, so I don't even know if I would support it. So, for instance, I think from the very little that I understand, I think like a United States sovereign wealth fund would actually be like pretty cool. But I don't know if he just wants a U.S. sovereign wealth fund so the United States can buy TikTok so that he can use it as his own little personal like social media platform. So I don't know if I would support it or him, you know. Eliminating the penny was fine, I guess, although I don't even know if he did that legally, but
I'll go there, and we're going to meet also probably in Saudi Arabia the first time. We'll meet in Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done. But we want to end that war. That war is a disaster. It's a really bloody horrible.
Isn't that circular logic? So Trump's always wrong? It's not circular logic. That's logic that works from one direction. So for instance, if you were to ask me, if I was in Nazi Germany, and let's say I wasn't a Nazi, okay, and you would say, well, are there any parts of like Hitler's social plans that you agree with? I would say probably not. Even if there are things that he were doing that I guess I kind of agree with. Like, I think this might be good, you know, in another context. The whole ideology that he has means that even if there's like some thing that I would support in another context, I probably wouldn't support it as part of his overall agenda or regime, right?
Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done. But we want to end that war. That war is a disaster. It's a really bloody, horrible war.
Saudi Arabia, the first meeting will happen.
I think so. We think we're going to probably meet in Saudi Arabia the first meeting. Hasn't been set, but not too distant future. We both understand. You know, we know the Crown Prince, and I think it'd be a very good place to meet.
So it sounds like that would just be a meeting between you and Putin and perhaps the Crown Prince, but not President Zelensky.
Probably we'll have a first meeting, and then we'll see what we can do about the second meeting.
Did you also commit to go to Ukraine?
What about Ukraine?
Did you commit to go to Ukraine?
No, I haven't. I haven't committed to go to Ukraine. I would
I don't give a fuck.
think about going. Yeah, I'd think about it. No problem.
You say today, Mr. President, that if they receive your vision, what is your plan to end this war? Like today, Secretary.
Well, I'm not going to tell you my plan. I can just tell you we've made a lot of progress. This should have been done by Biden, not by me, because this has been going on for now a long time, years. And it should have been done by Biden. Just like the young gentleman that I brought home yesterday after 2 weeks. We worked on it for 2 weeks. He was a fine man, and he was in there for 3.5, almost 4 years. And they weren't able to do a thing, and I got him out. And as you know, I didn't pay $6 billion. I didn't pay anything. We did a trade, and we did a good job. We got him out in 2 weeks. It should have been out years ago. It really should have been out years ago.
Post NATO membership for Ukraine.
I don't think it's practical to have it, personally. I know that our new Secretary of Defense, who's excellent, Pete, made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that. This has been going on for many, many years. They've been saying that for a long time, that Ukraine cannot go into NATO. And I'm okay with that. I just want the war, whether they are or they're not. But it certainly would seem to be that most people have said that that is something that's not going to happen.
The Department of Defense paid $32,000 to replace 25 coffee cups and hundreds of thousands of dollars for soap dispensers. DOGE is needed. In October 2024, a 2-year audit by the Defense Department Inspector General found Boeing overcharged the Air Force by 8,000% for soap dispensers that the service branch paid $149,072 over market price for. Of a selected 46 spare parts that were scrutinized by the audit, the report found that the Air Force overpaid about $1 million for 12 of them for its C-17 transport planes. Why is he saying that DOGE is needed when these things were discovered by the Inspector General, the Office of Inspector General for the DoD? What part of this needs DOGE? I thought there were no audits. I thought nobody was checking for this kind of fraud. Like, what is the point of saying this? You know, like, this is why we need DOGE. Why? It sounds like this was found by the Office of Inspector General, which is literally their fucking job. That's literally their job. Like, how would DOGE even do this type of auditing? Does DOGE know what parts should be charged for, or how much money any of this should actually cost? Like, DOGE wouldn't even be qualified to figure out any of this. Like,
are you freezing out President Zelensky of this process a bit? Isn't there a danger of that?
No, I don't think so. As long as he's there, but at some point you're going to have elections too. You're going to have to have an election.
He wants security assurances, Mr. President. What does that look like?
In terms of what?
If the war were to end, he says he wants guarantees of security.
We'll see what that means. I think when the war ends, one thing he was very strong about, if it ends, he wants it to end. And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end. He doesn't want to end it and then go back to fighting 6 months later. We talked about the possibility, I mentioned it, of a ceasefire so we can stop the killing. And I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not.
What would be the point of showing people's nationalities on social media like you want regulated when that Ian retard is not American and so influential on Twitter? I don't think most people know that guy's not American. And I just think it would be really interesting so I could see how many Chinese flags and how many Russian flags are thrown up when all these people are supposedly American supporting America. I think it would change the way that people would view a lot of these accounts. Because I think the majority of them are foreign accounts that Elon Musk is like retweeting and everything all the time, called like American Dad or Christian Mom MAGA Forever or whatever.
Too distant future.
Do you expect Ukraine?
Say it, what?
Do you view Ukraine as an equal member of this peace process?
It's an interesting question. I think they have to make peace. Their people are being killed, and I think they have to make peace. I said that was not a good war to go into, and I think they have to make peace. That's what I think.
Why do you decide to provide support to Ukraine?
Would you support Zelensky ceding territory or exchanging territory in any agreement to end the war?
Well, he's going to have to do what he has to do, but, his poll numbers aren't particularly great, to put it mildly. He's got a country where...
Is that even true?
It's been...
Wait. Can somebody link me recent Zelensky poll numbers? I thought they were still really high. Is this just a Russian talking point that I've heard, or...?
His poll numbers aren't particularly great, to put it mildly. He's got a country where, it's been savaged and attacked, and he's got an army that's been very, very brave, actually, despite the fact that, we've given him, in my opinion, $350 billion. That's what the real number is. You don't hear that number. And Europe has given, in my opinion, $100 billion. And they've done it in the form of a...
How can you have an opinion on that? My opinion is we've given them, almost 100% more than we've said. Also in dollars, all of this? Like, what, like... That's just your opinion? What do you mean, your opinion?
Been very, very brave, actually, despite the fact that, we've given him, in my opinion, $350 billion. That's what the real number is. You don't hear that number. And Europe has given, in my opinion, $100 billion. And they've done it in the form of a loan. And I have a Secretary of Treasury right now who's actually quite brave. He's over in Ukraine on a train. And there's a lot of things happening around that train that aren't so good. And he's going there to get a document done where we're going to be assured that we're going to, in some form, get this money back, because we're putting up far more money than Europe, and Europe is in far more danger than we are. We have an ocean in between. Europe has nothing in between. They have in between. They have Ukraine in between. So wait a minute. So as you know, Europe is putting up money. They're getting it in the form of a loan. And the United States under Biden didn't do loans. They just handed money every time somebody walked in from Ukraine. They just handed them money foolishly. This should have never happened. It should have never started. And once it did, other things should have happened. Other things should have taken place. So we're getting security on our money. We're going to have it secured by, they have raw earth, and they have oil and gas, and they have a lot of other things. And
fuck, raw earth?
We're asking for security on our money.
How long does Zelensky have?
They've agreed to it. Ukraine has agreed to it.
Doesn't mean you are not sending any more aid to Ukraine.
No, we are, but we want it secured. And the money.
War rally fades for Ukraine leadership. So this is for November 21st, 2024. So his approval is at 60%. So it's definitely gotten lower, but like unpopular? Trump wishes he had a 60% approval rating. Okay.
money is going to be secured.
When will the U.S. stop sending funding? When will the U.S. stop sending funding?
Because if we didn't do that, then Putin would say he won. We're the thing that's holding it back. And frankly, we'll go as long as we have to go because we're not going to let the other happen. But President Putin wants to have peace now, and that's good. And he didn't want to have peace with Biden.
Was that conversation with Putin?
And you tell me why that is, okay?
Was that conversation with Putin to start these negotiations part of the deal to bring Fogel home?
No, but it was a nice thing that he allowed Mark Fogel to leave. In fact, Mark wasn't feeling well, but he was all of a sudden about 2 weeks ago, he started being treated very nicely. He said they took him out for haircuts. They took him out. They helped him out a little bit and made him feel better, made him look better. And they were nice to him. And he said, I saw something happening. And it coincided with when I came into office. So that was nice. And he's a fine person. He was so happy to be out. He was there for 3.5 years plus. And he shouldn't have been there at all. They should have had him out much faster than that.
What does make you
Wow.
believe that Zelensky will
Wait, go ahead, please.
Sorry, sir, just to be clear, do you see any future in which Ukraine returns with pre-2014 borders?
Well, I think Pete said today that that's unlikely, right? It certainly would seem to be unlikely. They took a lot.
Wait, excuse me, sir. Why are you talking? Somebody needs to raise their hand and say, sir, why are you saying that that's unlikely? Don't you want to not talk about this because it weakens your negotiating position? Why would you reveal this now?
Well, I think Pete said today that that's unlikely, right? It certainly would seem to be unlikely. They took a lot of land and they fought for that land and they lost a lot of soldiers. But it would just seem to me, and I'm not making an opinion on it, but I've read a lot on it, and a lot of people think that that's unlikely. Some of it will come back. I think some of it will come back. Yeah.
I've read a lot. That's the biggest lie he's ever said in office. Do you see Ukraine giving up territory this late into the war? Unfortunately, yeah. I guess the question is just how much. Like at first, I figured it was Crimea for sure, and then I thought that the places in the Donbass. But now, is it what's the land bridge cities? Is Mariupol one of the ones down there, or like now I don't know. Are they giving up like a whole land bridge as well? Does anybody have a link to the current, like how much Russia owns? Oh, Zaporizhia? Mariupol? That would never happen. What would never happen? Them giving up the whole land bridge? Like, Jesus. Holy fuck. Like, are they giving up this whole land bridge? Is that what's going to happen? Are they going to actually, or is Russia really giving all this land back? The Russian state has annexed by law more than they control. Russia has already formally annexed it, so they will never give it back. This is a Daily Mail. I feel like Daily Mail is the last publication I would trust for a leaked peace plan. Reported by Ukrainian outlet Strana. What is this format? It looks like the CSS failed to load or something. Maybe? I don't know what the fuck is going on with this. Ukraine banned from joining NATO and must declare neutrality. Ukraine withdraws from Kursk. European and UK soldiers, police demilitarized buffer zone. Kiev accepts Russian sovereignty of annexed land. This would just be insane, bro. There's no way. Or maybe there is. I mean, why am I saying there's no way? Like there's nobody, I guess, to stand.
Some of that land will come back.
This is pretty normal. Large nuclear power does some crazy shit, takes land and stalemate ensues. Then they get what they want from rest of world. I feel like historical wise, this pattern happens all the time. We don't even have that much history on nuclear powers. What are you talking about? Nuclear powers existed for like 80 years. What? Also, I don't think this has traditionally like happened much since 91, since the fall of the Soviet Union.
These are both Russian.
Who are you with?
Sorry, me.
Yeah.
AFP.
You who?
AFP, Agence France Presse.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask you, the things that the Secretary of Defense was talking about, the 2014 borders and the lack of NATO membership. Ultimately, these are both demands that Russia has made in the past. Is there not a danger of handing Russia a kind of win on this?
Well, I think that if you look at the way the war is going, you'll have to make your own determination. I'm just here to try and get peace. I don't care so much about anything other than I want to stop having millions of people killed. Last night, Kiev got hit very, very hard. I want to see people stop getting killed. That war is ridiculous. It should have never happened, and it would have never happened. Yeah, a couple of more questions.
Are you planning to sign an executive order on reciprocal tariffs, sir?
Yes, I am. In fact, I may do it today, and if I do it today, I could almost do it right now. Would you like me to talk about it now? I don't want to take anything away from this young lady's day, because this is her day, and I may do it later on, or I may do it tomorrow morning, but we'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of...
Wait, reciprocal tariffs on who for what? Is this related to China?
The United States, for many years, they've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them. And as you know, I just did something on steel and aluminum, 25%. And that'll go up at some point, but 25%, which will level the playing field quite a bit. I did it previously 50%, and Obama was very weak, and Biden was even weaker.
Okay. Trust in armed forces. Hold on, we gotta watch an advertisement. Trust in armed forces remains strong, while Zelensky's rating drops to 51%. Okay, this makes sense then. More than 90% of Ukrainians trust the armed forces the most. 83% trust state of emergency service, and 80% trust volunteer organizations. So my guess is the trust in Zelensky is falling just as a result of like probably not making huge progress on the war, but probably not so much as like they are ready for Russia to take over and be cool with it, would be my guess. Okay, what are we going to do for the next 4 years, guys? I feel like this is depressing shit. Trump hasn't even been in office for a month yet, and every day is just like horrible, depressing news. What are we doing? What's the plan? Jesus.
We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective.
Yikes. Shameful to see the United States of America surrendering sovereign European territory to the terroristic fucking state of Russia that has now invaded and stripped from a European country part of its sovereign recognized territory. We had the breakup of Yugoslavia, which was a lot messier, I think, and a little bit harder to know for sure. Like, shit, this is like a fuck thing or whatever, in terms of the country staying together or not. Back in 92, right? Wait, fuck. Breakup, Yugoslavia. When it formally totally split into a different country. Was that in like 91, 92? But other than that, the borders have been pretty stable in Europe, and now we just have Russia fucking shit up.
Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. A durable peace for Ukraine must include robust security guarantees to ensure that the war will not begin again. This must not be Minsk 3.0. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
Damn, so Ukraine gets fucked on everything? No NATO, no security guarantees, no territory, like it loses territory. Like, does Ukraine get anything out of it? Why wouldn't they just fight forever then? Why don't they say, oh, f it, we're just gonna literally fight until we're all dead?
Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops.
What? Wait, I'm so sorry. Like who? Who else? I'm ignorant at this point. What other military alliances exist beyond NATO? BRICS isn't even considered a military alliance, is it? Right? No, it's just economic. Same thing with the EU, right? Who else besides... Are there any other like economic... Or I'm sorry, not economic. Are there like other military alliances? There could be that. I just don't know. Wasn't there one that existed that Tulsi didn't know and everybody's making fun of her for, but I've never heard of it before? What am I thinking of?
Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops.
ASEAN,
If these troops
or
are
whatever.
deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5.
So then what? So what? Is it going to be UN peacekeeping forces? Can you deploy UNEF? Is it UNEF, emergency force? Can you deploy that if a member on the Security Council vetoes it? Is Russia going to be okay on the Security Council approving peacekeeping troops to prevent their own invasion of Ukraine?
There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine. To further enable effective diplomacy and drive down energy prices that fund the Russian war machine, President Trump is unleashing American energy production and encouraging other nations to do the same. Lower energy prices, coupled with more effective enforcement of energy sanctions, will help bring Russia to the table. Safeguarding European security must be an imperative for European members of NATO. As part of this, Europe must provide the overwhelming share of future lethal and non-lethal aid to Ukraine. Members of this contact group must meet the moment.
Well, I don't understand why we didn't just end the war on day one then. If the negotiation was going to be Ukraine, you lose everything. No territory, no reparations, no security guarantees. You're just fucked. Then why didn't we could have done this on day one. I could have negotiated this. Hey, Putin, here's the deal, okay? You win everything. Oh, that's a day one negotiation. What are we waiting for on this?
This means donating more ammunition and equipment, leveraging comparative advantages, expanding your defense industrial base, and importantly, leveling with your citizens about the threat facing Europe. Part of this is speaking frankly with your people about how this threat can only be met
with European resistance, not with NATO, because the U.S. doesn't want fuck all to do with you anymore, because we're just going to sit over here on the other side of the Atlantic gooning.
Part of this is speaking frankly with your people about how this threat can only be met by spending more on defense. 2% is not enough. President Trump?
2% for what? Oh. Now? Oh, hold on. Oh. Now they know what the NATO spending is for. You need to spend 5% because you said before, no NATO troops, no Article 5 defense, no joining NATO, but you need to spend 5%. You need to spend more on your militaries. This isn't spending to bring you up to what a NATO country should spend as. This is spending to bring you up to where hopefully the US doesn't have to do fuck all anymore to help you. It's just you guys are, it's every country for themselves. That's cute that we would use a NATO spending leverage point, talking point here to not have any kind of NATO obligations.
Has called for 5%, and I agree.
What a waste of all of our training and all of our military. It was like the one good thing the U.S. had was like our military shit at least. And now we just do nothing, I guess, with it. So do they want other NATO countries to increase spending, but the U.S. doesn't have to increase? It's not about the spending. It's about them not relying on NATO. That's what they want. By they, I mean the U.S. The U.S. wants them to not have to rely on NATO, the European countries, and they just need to spend more on the military so the U.S. doesn't have to do anything. This is so lame. I thought, like, we should be like losing a war, and then that's how you lose your position in the world. Not because of Fox News hosts. It's so cringe. No, Destiny, this 5% means that European states need to buy more American weapons to ensure NATO. It's about spending. Yeah, but it's not about NATO. It's about the European countries being able to defend Ukraine without NATO. I think that's the point of this. That's what it sounds like.
Defense, Pete Hegseth had some interesting things to say about Ukraine.
Namely that full liberation from Russia is unrealistic.
But the headlines only get you so far. What he really said
was that returning Ukraine to its pre-2024 borders, which include Crimea, was unrealistic.
Taking back Crimea would require
something very close to an amphibious invasion, which is really not something that Ukraine has the capability to do, or support troops down a very narrow corridor.
But what he did not say is that Ukraine should surrender or give up territory or that the United States wasn't going to supply more weapons. And I think the clue here comes from this line
that the U.S. would shift to deterring war with China.
And I've often said that supporting Ukraine is one of the best ways of deterring China from invading Taiwan. Because if we can't support a country that has a rail network connected with Europe, we sure as heck aren't going to support a country that's 6,100 miles away from everything.
I don't know what that would look like. Like, if China invades Taiwan, does the United States defend them? Or do we just say, well, we wanted to do chip manufacturing here anyway?
So I kind of wonder if this is kind of the Secretary of Defense's way of saying, like, hey, Europe, we're not going to stand in your way because every weapon that's sent to Ukraine is another way of deterring China. But you need to get your act together right now and start taking care of stuff in your own backyard because we're going to have a bigger monster to deal with in a couple of years.
Oh, that's a very, 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 very generous reading of our current demeanor towards foreign policy. We're just backing away from Ukraine so that we can be prepared to defend Taiwan. Okay.
But reading the tea leaves here, what I don't see is the U.S. saying that, hey, we're going to stop sending expiring missiles or stop sending old equipment because that really does benefit us.
The problem isn't even an invasion. With the USA going isolationist route, it's just a matter of time. China has enough soft power to take over Hong Kong style. Maybe. I don't know the differences between because Taiwan and Hong Kong have a different legal relationship, I believe, with China. I haven't read into the differences between that, so. In the case of a Taiwan invasion, China is very likely to strike the U.S. first. Otherwise, they'd leave themselves completely open unless the Chinese were assured by the U.S. they wouldn't intervene. Is China in a position to blow all of our stuff up without us knowing that they're mobilizing shit? That sounds not possible. I could be wrong, though, but my repair guy's here. Hold on, let me go check on him. 1 second.
Went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them because there's a massive fraud that's taken place. And then you have judges that are activists, and they sit there and they say, oh, as an example, $59 million going to a little small group in New York City. You get nothing going to North Carolina to help nothing. They say, we don't have any money because they've given it away on the border. But you have nothing. What they did to North Carolina is a shame. And then they sent $59 million to New York City for a hotel for a little bit of nothing. What they've done, a hotel that was not luxury, that's getting luxury rates for migrants, where they're making a fortune, and we catch them. But a judge says,
good job. Do you think if you got like a tube that ran around like the corner of your ceiling, like where the ceiling and wall meets, that edge, like a big tube, do you think cats would like walk through those and like lay up there?
well, even though it may be a fraud, you have to send the money in anyway. Send the money. I said, wait a minute. We have money that shouldn't go because we caught it before it was sent out.
At Destiny, I know it's unlikely, but in the case that Trump manages to balance the budget, how do Democrats convince the public that deficit spending is actually good? It sounds like an uphill battle. I mean, people will see cuts to programs that they care about, and then I guess we go from there. But I don't know. I don't even know if he'll decrease the deficit. That's the thing. Because I don't even know if our future spending was taking into account an extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And if he extends that, it's even less revenue for the government. Like, he's fighting on all fronts. And if the size of the economy doesn't increase as much as we'd like it to, you've got interest payments that you're keeping up on as well. And all tariffs are going to do, maybe they won't contract the economy, but they're definitely going to hurt expansion if it doesn't cause a contraction. He's like fighting on all fronts in ways that are only going to increase the deficit. I don't see where any of the savings, or I don't know how he cuts the deficit like in a meaningful way. You're never going to find stuff from waste, fraud, and abuse. This is just a meme. I don't know how to, it's so frustrating because so much of this is like, you're either like an adult or a child. Like, no reasonable person thinks that you're going to dramatically save money looking for waste, fraud, and abuse unless you literally have a completely unaccountable program that's never checked for it ever. Like, you're just not saving that much. I'm sure you can find some, but it's not going to be even 1% of the budget or any of these programs unless he literally just starts axing entire programs like they did or trying to do with USAID, which is not legal, which judges are going to block anyway. And it's just like, I don't know.
But they want the money to go anyway. And I think you're going to have a lot of things to look at, Pam. I really do. What's going on with this whole thing? And this is just one group. We haven't talked about Department of Education. We haven't talked about the military. We haven't talked about a lot of things that are very big. And what's happened is, as an example, you'll have cases where you have a 3-month contract, and maybe the guy that signs the contract leaves. Maybe he gets rich. All of a sudden he leaves for that reason. But you have a 3-month contract, and maybe he leaves. So the contract is sitting there, and the people signing the checks don't know it's 3 months, and it goes on for years. The 3 months turns out to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, just goes on forever. And the guy on the other side of the contract just keeps getting check after check after check.
Like, these are just like talking points that they say over and over again. Why not give a name? Give an example of this if this is truly happening. I don't like how we got to find something different to do for the next few years. Like, it's just, these are just like obvious bullshit talking points. Like, this is like a friend that's in a friend group that you kind of like roll your eyes at, where the friend is like, yeah, like yesterday I hung out with a super famous celebrity and I can't tell you who it was, but like they are so famous. And then we banged and they bought me a new car, but then I had to give the car back so you can't see it. And I didn't take any picture. It's like, yeah, we get it, bro. You're just like, you're a pathological liar. You're just lying about everything. Like, I don't know how Trump can get away with this. I have a friend who said they're going to invest $500 billion in the U.S. and there's businesses that told me, like, who? Name them, dude. Give us some names. You're the fucking president. What do you mean? These are public affairs, aren't they? This is the government that's getting scammed, right? Why not tell us who's getting these checks? Tell us who the scammers are.
Because Elon had an expression yesterday, because nobody cares. It's a great expression. Nobody cares. The guy that signed the contract didn't care. Maybe there, may not be there. Maybe crooked. Who knows? But you have to care. Otherwise, you can't really run a thing like that, or you can't run a country, really, because there's so...
One of the big issues I see right now is that one side will believe everything Trump says with no evidence, and it is impossible to combat because when the left says there's no evidence, the people on the right simply don't care. It's literally like talking to a brick wall. Yeah, because they say, well, what about the tweets? And it's like, that information was already public, but then people just like kind of like nod through it, and it's okay. Like, this will come up a little bit in my peers episode if it goes live today or tomorrow, where I'm just like, this is illegal, and they're like, this is the process, and it's like, no, he's literally saying he's not going to follow the judge's orders. And like, we'll see. And it's like, no, he's already done this. There's already been an order issued saying he hasn't followed it. And it's like, this is what's supposed to happen. It's like, no, it's not.
Really run a thing like that, or you can't run a country, really, because there's so many transactions, thousands and thousands of transactions. And if you don't have people that care, you're going to lose control. And that's what's happened. And we've caught it. Now, what we caught is billions and billions of dollars, but it's a tiny fraction of the real number, because you can never catch the real number because people have gotten away with tremendous amounts of money. But I said we have to make our government smaller, more...
Who else was on Piers? It was just me and Andrew Wilson, and then like Piers kind of like moderating. I think they wanted some huge spicy debate on like atheism versus Christianity, but I don't think either of us bit much on that, so...
efficient, more effective, and a lot less expensive. And we could find $1 trillion, but we're being hindered by courts.
Really?
Where they file in certain courts where it's very hard to win, and a judge will stop us, and a judge will say that it doesn't make any difference what you find. You just keep paying the money. That's a hell of a way to be. And I follow the courts. I have to follow the law. All it means is that we appeal. But that gives people time to cover their tracks. And that's what they do. So it's a very bad thing that's taking place. But hopefully, if the courts, hopefully the courts will be fair. They don't have to be very fair. They just have to be a little bit fair, because this is so egregious what's taking place. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nobody's seen numbers like this. These are massive numbers. $9 million for somebody to go and stand in a store and see how people shop. Okay? I mean, you take a look at these things. It's a disgrace. and then you have a country that we want to make America great again. It's very hard to make America great again when you have things like this. And you're going to see the same thing. Department of Education is going to be a disaster.
Why does Trump have the lectern in his office? That is fucking stupid. Because you can't get the shopkeepers to, I think, restore their stash if they don't have the lectern there to go to.
The military, I mean, I see it. Look, I came in, they had a contract done, as you know, for $5.7 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force One with Boeing. 5.7. I got it down to $4 billion, a little less than that, 1 penny less than that. $3,999,999 and 99 cents. I said it has to have a 3 in front of it.
He's missing a 999 there, but okay. What is he even talking about right now? Hold on.
With $1 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force. I came in, they had a contract done, as you know, for $5.7 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force One with Boeing. 5.7. I got it down to $4 billion, a little less than that, 1 penny less than that. $3,999,999 and 99 cents. I said it has to have a 3 in front of it because I wouldn't sign the contract for $5.7 billion. I was able to cut $1.7 billion off the price.
For what? Does anybody have a link to what he's even talking about? What is he?
Didn't take me long. $1.7 billion. If people would care, they'd be able to do that with every single contract that's put before them. And we wouldn't have deficits. We'd have nothing but a tremendously low-taxed, wonderful country. But they have to care. And speaking of that, you know, Boeing, we're not happy with the service we're getting in terms of those planes. They would like to get more money. We're not happy about that whole thing. We signed a very strong contract. I signed a guaranteed maximum contract, which they haven't seen in a long time. And they're saying they're getting hurt by it. But they have to produce the product, and we expect them to produce the product. They have to produce the product. They agreed to build planes at a certain price. They're not used to that. They're used to having time and material contracts where it's whatever it costs, time and material, no dates, no anything, and it ends up costing 5 times more. You look at some of the ships that have been built. Take a look at the Gerald Ford, the aircraft carrier, the Ford. It was supposed to cost $3 billion. It ends up costing like $18 billion, and they make, of course, all electric catapults, which don't work, and they have all magnetic elevators. They lift up 25 planes at a time, 20 planes at a time. And instead of using hydraulic, like on tractors that can handle anything from hurricanes to lightning to anything, they use magnets. It's a new.
U.S. Boeing complete $3.9 billion Air Force One deal. Boeing Company on Tuesday secured a $3.9 billion deal to build the new jets that will fly as Air Force One. With only one wrinkle yet to be resolved, their color. The award follows 18 months of an at times torturous to and fro between the aerospace giant and President Donald Trump, who had threatened to cancel the planned sale over concerns about the cost of replacing the aging 747 jumbo jets. The final price, detailed in a Pentagon press release, is what the president had initially criticized when he tweeted before taking office that costs were out of control. The Air Force, which is overseeing the program, said the price tag was agreed to and handshake deal reached with the White House earlier this year. Boeing declined to comment. The president in media interviews has discussed painting the planes red, white, and blue in contrast to the blue and white livery in place since the early 1960s. Mr. Trump repeated his preference in an interview on Tuesday. Boeing gave us a great deal, he said on CBS, but I said, I wonder if we should use the same baby blue colors. And we're not. Air Force One is going to be incredible. It's going to be the top of the line, the top in the world, and it's going to be red, white, and blue, which I think is appropriate. The White House and Secret Service changed the specifications for the new Air Force One fleet last year as part of the cost-cutting effort. Okay, so they changed some of the specs of what they were actually buying. Okay, whatever.
New theory, magnets are going to lift the planes up, and it doesn't work. And they had billions and billions of dollars of cost overruns. I met the architect. I said, have you designed a ship before? This is one of the biggest ships in the world. It's like landing at LaGuardia Airport. But you look at the kind of waste, fraud, and abuse that this country is going through, and we have to straighten it out. We have great people going into the military in terms of we need ships, we need a lot of things. So we have great people, we have business people going in. But when you look at what's happened to our purchasing, and when you look at the USAID, when you look at the things that they're giving to them, the billions of dollars that they're giving to, and it doesn't make sense. It is interesting that when you're looking for fraud, you look at items, hundreds of items, and you'll find one or two, maybe, if you're lucky. Here's something where you look at data, and
They're all fraudulent. You know, by just looking at the topic, they're all fraudulent, except it's the opposite. You'll find one or two that's like a legitimate reason. So I just want to thank Elon for going through it. I want to thank all the people that are working with him. You know, we have a big group of people. I think the lowest IQ is about 160. That's very high. I think you have a couple of 182s in there, but they're doing a fantastic job. He doesn't need it, and they don't need it. But we're showing things, and it's going to be it's a big. People have no idea how important it is. Yeah.
How soon do you want the Department of Education to be closed?
Oh, I'd like it to be closed immediately. Look, the Department of Education is a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world. We're ranked number 40th, but we're ranked number 1 in one department, costs per pupil. So
ranked number 40th in what? In college education, or just in is this including like K through 12 or whatever?
Spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, but we're ranked number 40. We've been between 38 and 40. The last time I looked, it was 38, and then I looked 2 days ago. It came out the new list. It came out at number 40, so we're ranked 40. Norway, Denmark, Sweden. I hate to say it, China, as big as it is, it's ranked in the top 5, and that's a
What can somebody link me what list he's talking about, or
primary competitor? We're ranked number 40. So if we're ranked number 40, that means something's really wrong, right? And I say send it back to Iowa, to Idaho, to Colorado. Send it back to places that, and there are a lot of Indiana. You have a great new governor. You have a great senator that Jim Banks just got elected. You got great people. I'll tell you what, Indiana's going to be fantastic. We probably have 35, maybe 37 states that will do as well as Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden. They'll be just as good. Then you have the ones that we all know about. It'll be the same story. But you know what? Even they will be good. Because you look at New York, you give it to Westchester County, you give it to Long Island, you give it to Nassau County, you give it to Suffolk County. Same thing you go out to, and you give it to upstate New York. So you'd have 4 or 5 sections. You give it to Manhattan. Manhattan's a little bit tougher for some reason. I don't know why it would be tougher, but it is. You give to California, and you go to various areas outside of Los Angeles, and you might have 6 or 7 different subgroups. But generally, like if you go to Iowa, you give it to Iowa. You don't have subgroups, you have Iowa. And other places that do a good job. If they do a good job, they're going to do a great job in education. Those places will be every bit as good as the various countries that do so well. All the time, it's the same countries that are doing well. And so we have a Department of Education where people from Washington, D.C., who in many cases don't care about the kids out in the country. They don't care about the farms and the farmer's daughter and the farmer's sons. We have a massive bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. We have buildings that are all over the city. Department of Education. I never said Department of Education's on all these buildings. By the way, nobody shows up to work because they're all working at home. You know, quote, working at home. They're not working at home. And a lot of them have second jobs. And that's the other thing that Elon Musk is looking at. How many of these people are getting checks, working at home, but they're not working because they have second jobs and even third jobs? You're going to find a lot of them. And those people are going to be fired because we have to make our government smaller. All right, one more question. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead. Nice to see you.
Oh, thank you, sir. 2 questions, one on Ukraine again, and then another one on the Kennedy Center. Do you think that as far as your negotiating tactics go, did Pete Hegseth take away some of your negotiating abilities with Putin by taking Ukraine's sovereign integrity off the table by taking...
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Whoever this is, thank you. Please, I hope you're subscribed, listening. Yes, ask him this question. I thought you weren't supposed to say anything because it hurts your negotiating position. Somebody asked it. Good job.
Negotiating abilities with Putin by taking Ukraine's sovereign integrity off the table by taking...
No, I haven't done that. I'm backing Ukraine. I'm backing Ukraine. Don't say that. I'm approving, but I do want security for our money. You know, Europe is getting security. You know that, right? They're giving their money in the form of a loan. Nobody knows that. And why are we at 350 billion and Europe, which doesn't separate with an ocean like we do, we have a little thing called an ocean in between. Why is it that Europe is paying 200 billion less than us to help Ukraine? Very similar size. If you add up all the European countries, it's a little bit smaller than the U.S. in terms of the economy. Why is it that they're not paying the kind of numbers that they should be paying? And then on top of it, and I've been saying this to Biden, I told Biden, I said, you ought to be asking for either a loan or some kind of a security, like their oil and gas or something for the money, because you're putting up much more money than Europe, and you have no security. Europe's putting up a much smaller amount, and it's in the form of a loan, because we have people that were incompetent in the last administration, grossly incompetent, and we're changing it. But we change it, and all we do is we get hit by lawsuits from the radical left all the time. But here we are, we stand, and I guess we've...
The radical left. Trump wrong about U.S. rank in education spending and outcomes. As justification for dismantling the Federal Department of Education, President Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that U.S. schools are ranked 40 out of 40 in educational outcomes compared with other countries, while the U.S. ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. Neither claim is accurate. U.S. high school students performed above average in science and reading and a bit below average in math, according to the latest data compiled by the Intergovernmental Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is the OECD. And in other international assessments, elementary students in the U.S. scored above average in math, science, and reading. During the campaign, Trump made no secret of his desire to dismantle the Federal Department of Education. As president, Trump said that remains his goal. Where the fuck does he even get that number from? He's been making these claims, these same claims for years, as far back as when he was running for president in 2016. As he wrote in May of 2016, he was wrong in both counts, as he is now. His campaign at the time did not respond when we asked for a source for the claims, and neither did the White House press office when we made a similar request this week. When Trump mentions 40 peer countries, he appears to be talking about the 37 OECD countries that participate in the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, which the NCES conducts in coordination with the OECD every 3 years in reading, math, and science for 15-year-old students. The latest results are from 2022. In no PISA category, however, does the U.S. rank last. Rather, the U.S. scored above average among OECD countries in reading and science, subjects in which the U.S. ranked 6th and 12th, respectively. The average U.S. score in math was lower, but not significantly, than the OECD average. The U.S. ranking in math was 28th. Trump was also wrong to say the U.S. spends more, or the most per pupil. The cost of higher education, college-level education, is very high in the U.S. U.S. expenditures for tertiary education, post-high school, including college, were the highest among OECD countries in 2021 at $36,274 per pupil. That was 77% higher than the OECD average. But a handful of other countries spend more than the U.S. on primary and secondary schooling. For example, while the total spending per pupil at the primary level elementary school in the U.S. was 28% higher than the OECD average, the U.S. ranked 6th behind Luxembourg, Norway, Iceland, Denmark, and Austria. Okay, nice. We just make shit up. Okay.
You've done okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Quickly, let's go. Come on, guys. Hey, guys, let's move. Come on. Let's go, guys.
What is this crazy lady saying? She's fully confirmed now, Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice Attorney General.